You will pay for ruining my marriage.
The iPad screen displayed my wife of 22 years with two men I didn't recognize. My 18-year-old daughter, Reese, stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, her face pale as fresh wood dot. The video was still playing when I walked in from the garage, wood shavings still clinging to my work shirt. "Dad," Reese whispered, her voice cracking like green lumber in winter. "Mom sent this to the family chat by mistake." I watched my world split apart like a board cut against the grain. Lana's voice echoed from the speakers, breathless and demanding things I'd never heard her say in our bedroom. The timestamp showed yesterday, 3:47 p.m. I'd been installing kitchen cabinets for the Hendersons while my wife was recording herself being used by strangers. I turned off the iPad with steady hands. 23 years of marriage, and this is how it ends. Not with an argument or lawyers, but with my daughter accidentally seeing her mother's betrayal in high definition. "Go upstairs, Reese," I said quietly. My voice sounded normal, controlled. Inside, something was breaking apart with the methodical precision of a demolition crew. The front door opened, and Lana breezed in carrying her yoga mat and green smoothie. She was glowing, energized in a way I hadn't seen in years. Her hair was different, shorter, more stylish. She'd lost weight too. "Hey, family!" she called out, all sunshine and enthusiasm. "How was everyone's day?" Reese looked at me, then bolted upstairs. I heard her bedroom door slam. Lana frowned. "What's wrong with her?" I held up the iPad. Her face went from confusion to recognition to panic in the span of 3 seconds. "Nathan, I can explain." "Can you?" I set the tablet on the kitchen counter between us like evidence in a courtroom. "Because I'm having trouble understanding how you accidentally sent a pornographic video of yourself to our family group chat." She sat down hard in the kitchen chair, the color draining from her cheeks. For a moment, she looked like the woman I'd married. Vulnerable, human, caught. Then she straightened up, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Defiance. "I've been wanting to talk to you about this," she said, meeting my eyes directly. "About us, about what I need." "What you need?" The words came out sharper than I intended. I pride myself on staying calm, on measuring twice and cutting once. But this felt like being handed a blueprint drawn in crayon. "I went to that leadership conference last month," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "I met some incredible people, including Travis." Travis. She'd mentioned him before, an old college friend who'd become some kind of relationship guru. Written a book about ethical non-monogamy that was climbing the bestseller lists. Travis opened my eyes to possibilities I never considered, Lana continued. About freedom, about love not being ownership, about exploring who we really are. I stared at my wife of 22 years and realized I was looking at a stranger. "You want an open marriage?" I said. It wasn't a question. "I want us both to be happy," she said quickly. "This isn't about replacing you, Nathan. It's about addition, not subtraction. Travis explains it perfectly in his book." Travis explains it perfectly. I repeated her words slowly, the way I'd repeat measurements to make sure I heard them right. "And what does Nathan get to explain?" She reached across the table for my hand. I pulled it back. "You deserve to explore too," she said. "When was the last time you felt truly alive? Truly excited about something?" I thought about the custom dining set I'd spent 3 months crafting for the Williamses. The way the cherrywood grain had aligned perfectly, how each joint fit together with mathematical precision. The satisfaction of creating something beautiful that would outlast both of us. "I feel alive when I'm working," I said. "Working isn't living, Nathan. It's existing." That night, after Lana went to bed early claiming a headache, I sat in my workshop running sandpaper over a piece of oak. The repetitive motion helped me think. Reese found me there around midnight. "Dad?" She stood in the doorway wearing her old Princeton sweatshirt, the one she'd bought during our college visit last spring. "Are you okay?" I set down the sandpaper and really looked at my daughter. She had my dark hair, but Lana's green eyes. Smart as hell, accepted to 3 different universities with partial scholarships. She was supposed to start at Penn State in the fall. "I'm processing," I said. "How are you holding up?" She came over and sat on my workbench, something she'd done since she was little. "I found something," she said quietly. "In Mom's purse yesterday when I was looking for the car keys." She pulled out a small silver phone I'd never seen before. "It's got a different number," Reese continued. I didn't look through it, but there were a lot of text notifications. I took the phone and turned it over in my hands. It was warm, recently used. "Why didn't you tell me yesterday?" "I was hoping I was wrong," she said. "I was hoping maybe it was for work or something. But after today," I powered on the phone. It immediately started buzzing with messages. The preview text made my stomach turn over. "Travis, can't wait to see you tomorrow. Bring the red dress." Unknown number. "Last night was incredible. When can we do it again? Bobby C." "You left your earrings at my place." I turned off the phone. "Dad," Reese said softly, "I'm 18. I can handle the truth." I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. She wasn't a little girl anymore. She was old enough to vote, old enough to serve in the military, old enough to make her own decisions about which parent to live with if this went to divorce court. "Your mother is having multiple affairs," I said. "She wants to open our marriage so she can continue them with my permission." Reese nodded like she'd already figured this out. "What are you going to do?" That was the question, wasn't it? What was Nathan Folsom, 44-year-old cabinet maker from Cleveland, going to do about his wife's infidelity? "I'm going to measure twice," I said, "and cut once." The next morning, Lana was already gone when I came down for coffee. Her note said she was having breakfast with her friend Sarah to process everything. I doubted Sarah existed, but I didn't say anything to Reese. I had 3 client consultations that day, including one with Miriam Gessler, a retired English professor who wanted built-in bookshelves for her study. Miriam had been one of my first customers when I started the business 12 years ago. She'd become something close to a friend over the years, one of the few people who understood that craftsmanship was its own form of art. "You look like hell," Miriam said when she opened her door. She was 65, completely gray, and had never learned to sugarcoat anything. "Thank you for the honest assessment," I said, pulling out my measuring tape. "Oh, what's wrong?" I focused on measuring the wall space, writing down numbers in my notebook. Miriam waited patiently. That was one of the things I liked about her. She understood the value of silence. "Lana wants an open marriage," I finally said. Miriam was quiet for a long moment. "Translation? She's already having affairs and wants retroactive permission," she said. I stopped measuring and looked at her. "That's a cynical way to put it." "It's a realistic way to put it," Miriam corrected. "I've been around academics my whole career, Nathan. I've seen this particular midlife crisis play out dozens of times. It's never actually about mutual exploration. It's about one person wanting to have their cake and eat it too." "She mentioned some guy named Travis, says he has a book about ethical non-monogamy," Miriam snorted. "Travis Kearns? That charlatan? He's been making the rounds on the lecture circuit. His whole philosophy boils down to, why commit to one person when you can manipulate several? He specifically targets married women going through identity crises. You know him. I know his type. Predatory self-help gurus who dress up selfishness as enlightenment. What are you going to do?" I finished measuring the last section of wall. "I'm going to think about it." But I was already thinking, and what I was thinking wasn't good. That evening, Lana came home around 9 o'clock. She was wearing the red dress Travis had mentioned in his text. "How was your day?" she asked, kissing my cheek like nothing had changed. "Productive," I said. "How was breakfast with Sarah?" A flicker of something crossed her face. Surprise, maybe guilt. "Fine. We talked about the whole situation. She thinks we're being brave." Sarah, who didn't exist, thought we were being brave. I filed that information away. "I've been thinking about what you said," I told her, "about exploring possibilities." Her face lit up. "Really? I want to understand what you're proposing." "Practically speaking," she sat down across from me at the kitchen table, animated in a way I hadn't seen in years. "Well, we'd establish ground rules," she said, like no bringing partners home. "And we'd always practice safe sex. And complete honesty about everything." "Complete honesty," I repeated. "Yes, that's the foundation of ethical non-monogamy. Transparency." I thought about the secret phone upstairs in my sock drawer. "And you'd be comfortable with me seeing other women?" For just a second, her enthusiasm flickered. The idea of me with another woman clearly bothered her more than she wanted to admit. "Of course," she said quickly. "That's the whole point. Freedom for both of us. Okay, I said, let me think about it. She reached across and squeezed my hand. Thank you for being open-minded about this. I know it's a big change. That night, I waited until she was asleep, then went down to my workshop and powered on her secret phone. I spent 2 hours reading through her messages, documenting everything in a notebook. Names, dates, locations, explicit descriptions of sexual encounters that made my skin crawl. Travis wasn't just some casual fling. They'd been planning this for months. The conference where they reconnected had been a cover story. She'd driven 3 hours to meet him at a hotel, spending money from our joint account on lingerie and wine. But Travis wasn't the only one. There was Bobby, a contractor she'd met on some dating app, Marcus, a teacher from her school district. At least 2 other men whose names I didn't recognize. The timestamps showed she'd been active with multiple partners while I was working late to finish the Henderson Kitchen project. While I was trying to earn extra money for Reese's college expenses, my wife was running around Cleveland like a teenager. The most damning messages were the ones between her and Travis about me. Lana. He's so boring. Never wants to try anything new. Travis. Traditional masculinity is threatened by female sexual agency. He'll either evolve or reveal his true nature. Lana. What if he doesn't agree to open things up? Travis. Then you'll know he never really loved you. Love doesn't limit. It liberates. I set the phone down and stared at my hands. 22 years of marriage, and this is what she really thought of me. Boring Nathan, with his boring job and his boring fidelity. The workshop was quiet except for the hum of the dehumidifier. I'd built this space with my own hands, every shelf and workbench custom fitted to my needs. It was the one place in the world that made complete sense to me. I picked up a piece of cherry wood I'd been saving for a special project. The grain was perfect, no knots or imperfections. I ran my fingers along its surface, feeling the potential locked inside. Then I started planning. The first step was reconnaissance. I needed to understand exactly who I was dealing with and what leverage I had. I started with Travis Kearns. His website was professionally designed, full of stock photos of diverse, attractive people embracing and looking enlightened. His bio claimed he was a relationship architect who had helped thousands of couples discover authentic intimacy. His book, Radical Unity, Beyond Monogamy, had glowing reviews on Amazon. But when I dug deeper, the picture got murkier. His previous books had been about real estate investment and cryptocurrency trading. His transformation into a relationship guru was relatively recent, coinciding with his divorce from his first wife. That divorce had been messy, according to court records I found online. Allegations of financial misconduct and emotional manipulation. I printed everything and started a file. Next was Bobby. His Facebook profile was public, filled with gym selfies and political rants. He worked construction, lived in a rundown apartment complex on the east side. Recent posts suggested he was struggling financially. His relationship status said, "It's complicated." More interesting were the photos from 2 weeks ago. Bobby at some kind of party or event with several other men and women. The location tag said, Harmony House. I researched Harmony House. It was a private club that hosted alternative lifestyle events. The website was carefully worded, but the implication was clear. It was a swingers club. I added Bobby's information to my growing file. The third name from Lana's phone, Marcus, was trickier. He worked at Washington Elementary, but his social media was locked down. I did find his professional page on the school district website. Married, 2 kids, coached Little League. His wife looked like a soccer mom who probably had no idea her husband was screwing around with my wife. I photographed everything and added it to the file. By the end of the week, I had detailed dossiers on all of Lana's known partners. But I was still missing something crucial: physical evidence. That's when I remembered the surveillance camera I'd installed last year after someone broke into my workshop. The camera faced the driveway and captured everyone who came to the house. I'd forgotten about it until now, but it uploaded everything to cloud storage. I spent an entire Saturday going through weeks of footage. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. Bobby had been coming to our house for months, always during the day while I was at work and Reese was at school. Sometimes he stayed for hours. The footage showed him leaving looking disheveled, Lana walking him to his truck in a bathrobe. Marcus had been more careful, but I caught him twice. Once dropping Lana off after what she'd told me was a teacher training session. Another time picking her up early one morning when she'd claimed to be going to yoga. But The most damning footage was from 3 weeks ago. Travis arriving in an expensive BMW, staying overnight while I was in Toledo installing cabinets for a restaurant. The next morning, Reese left early for her part-time job at the bookstore. An hour later, Travis and Lana came out together, and she handed him an envelope. Cash from the way he counted it. My wife was paying for sex. With our money. I backed up all the footage to 3 different drives and stored them in separate locations. One in my workshop, one in a safety deposit box, and one with Miriam. "Why are you giving me this?" Miriam asked when I dropped off the drive. "Insurance," I said, "in case something happens to me." She looked at me carefully. "Nathan, what are you planning?" "I'm planning to protect my daughter," I said, "and myself." That night, Lana brought up the open marriage again. "Have you thought more about what we discussed?" she asked. We were sitting on the couch watching TV, or pretending to. She was scrolling through her phone, the real one, not the secret one. "I have," I said. "I want to meet Travis." Her phone froze in her hands. "Meet him? If he's going to be part of our lives, I should know him, don't you think?" Yes, that makes sense. But are you sure you're ready for that?" "I'm ready to understand what we're getting into." She texted someone, Travis, presumably, and arranged for all of us to have dinner that Friday at Chez Laurent, an upscale French restaurant downtown. "Her treat," she said. I spent the week preparing for that dinner like I was preparing for war. Travis Kearns was exactly what I'd expected. Tall, silver-haired, expensively dressed, and completely full of shit. He had the kind of confident handshake that lasted just a beat too long and called me brother within the first 5 minutes. "Nathan," he said as we sat down, "Lana's told me so much about you. I have to say, I admire your openness to growth." "Growth," I repeated. "Is that what we're calling it?" He laughed like I'd made a joke. "I know this is a big step. It takes courage to evolve beyond traditional relationship models. And you're an expert on evolution? I've dedicated my life to understanding human connection," he said smoothly. "Traditional monogamy served our species when we were hunter-gatherers, but we've evolved beyond that. We're capable of so much more love, so much more intimacy when we free ourselves from artificial constraints." Lana was beaming at him like he was dispensing wisdom from Mount Sinai. "That's fascinating," I said. "How long have you and Lana been exploring this connection?" A flicker of something passed between them. Lana jumped in quickly. "We reconnected at the conference last month," she said. "Travis was the keynote speaker. His presentation completely changed my perspective on relationships." "Just last month," I said. "Wow. You two seem very close for such a recent reconnection." Travis smiled. "When you find authentic connection, time becomes irrelevant." Lana and I have achieved a level of intimacy that transcends traditional timelines. "Intimacy that transcends traditional timelines," I repeated. "That's a beautiful way to describe adultery." The table went silent. Lana's face flushed red. Travis's smile never wavered. "I understand you're processing some complex emotions," he said calmly. "That's natural. Fear of change is human nature. But what if I told you that your marriage could be stronger than ever? That instead of one relationship, you could have multiple relationships, all built on honesty and mutual respect? What if I told you that I've been married for 22 years and never once felt the need to fuck someone else?" "Nathan." Lana hissed. "Sorry," I said. "What's the proper term? Make love to someone else? Achieve intimate connection with someone else? Transcend traditional boundaries with someone else?" Travis leaned forward, going into full therapist mode. "I hear anger," he said. "And underneath that anger, I hear fear. Fear of inadequacy, fear of abandonment. These are valid emotions, but they don't serve your growth." "You want to know what I'm afraid of?" I said. "I'm afraid of what happens to my daughter when she realizes her mother cares more about getting laid than protecting her family." Lana stood up abruptly. "I need to use the restroom." After she left, Travis's mask slipped slightly. "Look, brother," he said, his voice lower and less performative. "I get it. This is hard. But Lana's made her choice. You can either be a part of her journey or be left behind. Those are your options. And if I choose to be left behind?" He shrugged. "Then you'll be a cautionary tale in my next book, The Man Who Chose Fear Over Love." When Lana came back, I was signing the check. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Home," I said. "I've heard enough." The drive back was silent. When we got to the house, Lana followed me into the workshop. That was embarrassing, she said. Travis was trying to help you understand. Travis is a con artist, I said, and you're his mark. How can you say that? You barely know him. I pulled out my phone and showed her the search results I'd compiled on Travis Kearns. The previous businesses, the failed marriages, the lawsuits from former clients who claimed he'd manipulated them. Did you know he's been sued 6 times for financial fraud? I asked. Did you know his last book was about cryptocurrency, not relationships? Did you know he's currently under investigation by the IRS for unreported income? She glanced at the phone screen, then pushed it away. People attack what they don't understand, she said. Successful people always have enemies. Did you know he charges $5,000 for a weekend intensive workshop and another $3,000 for private relationship coaching sessions? Her face went pale. How much have you paid him, Lana? It's not about money. How much? She sat down heavily on my workbench. $8,000, she whispered. For coaching and the workshop fees. $8,000. From our joint account, money we'd been saving for Reese's college expenses. You spent our daughter's college fund on relationship coaching from a con artist, I said. It's not gone, she said quickly. I mean, it's an investment in us. In our future. I stared at my wife of 22 years and realized she was completely delusional. There is no us, I said quietly. There hasn't been for months. Nathan, please, I want you to stop seeing Travis. I want you to end all the affairs. I want you to come home and try to save our marriage. That's my offer. She was quiet for a long time. I can't do that, she finally said. I can't go back to the way things were. I've discovered who I really am. Then we're done. I started to walk past her toward the house. She grabbed my arm. Wait, she said. What about Reese? What about her? We can't put her through a messy divorce. She's about to start college. This would destroy her. For a moment, I thought she was showing actual concern for our daughter. Then I realized what she was really worried about. You're afraid she'll choose me, I said. Lana didn't deny it. She doesn't understand, Lana said. She sees this as betrayal instead of growth. If we divorce now, she'll blame me for everything. Because it is your fault. Everything. Please, she said. Give me 6 months. Let me show you that this can work. Let me prove that we can all be happy. 6 months. Until after Reese started college and was safely away from the fallout. 6 months, I said. But I have conditions. Hope flickered in her eyes. Okay, what conditions? Complete transparency. I want passwords to all your accounts. I want to know where you are at all times. And I want detailed financial records of every penny you've spent. She nodded eagerly. And no more overnight trips. You sleep in this house every night. Done. And Reese doesn't find out about any of this until after she starts college. Of course. I held out my hand. Deal. She shook it, relief flooding her face. That night, after she fell asleep, I went back to my workshop and opened a new notebook. At the top of the first page, I wrote, 6-month plan. Then I started writing. Lana stuck to our agreement for exactly 11 days. On day 12, she claimed she had a school board meeting that would run late. I called the school board office. There was no meeting scheduled. I followed her. She met Travis at a hotel bar downtown. They had drinks, dinner, and disappeared upstairs to room 412. I waited in the parking lot until 11:47 p.m., when they both came out together. He kissed her goodbye like they were lovers, not like they were exploring authentic connection. I photographed everything. When she got home, I was waiting in the kitchen. How was the meeting? I asked. Long, she said, not meeting my eyes. Budgetary stuff, very boring. I'm sure it was. She went upstairs to shower. I could hear her humming in the bathroom, happy and satisfied. While she was showering, I went through her purse and found receipts from the hotel bar and dinner. She'd paid for everything. The next morning, I called in sick to work and went to see a lawyer. Patricia Hines was 55 years old, built like a linebacker, and had a reputation for being ruthless in divorce proceedings. She looked over my documentation, photos, financial records, phone records, surveillance footage, with the clinical detachment of a coroner. "This is quite thorough," she said when she finished. "Very thorough. Almost obsessively thorough. I'm a detail-oriented person." "I can see that." She set down the papers. "The adultery is clear-cut. The financial misconduct is well documented. With this evidence, you'll get primary custody, the house, and probably alimony. I don't want alimony. I want to make sure she can't take anything else from me or my daughter. That can be arranged. But I have to ask, why haven't you filed yet? You've been gathering evidence for weeks." I told her about the 6-month agreement, about protecting Reese until she was safely away at college. Patricia nodded slowly. "That's admirable, but it's also risky. The longer you wait, the more opportunity she has to drain your accounts or create complications. I can handle 6 months. Can you? Because based on what I'm seeing here, your wife is escalating. The lying is getting bolder. The spending is increasing. And this Travis character sounds like a professional manipulator who's probably pushing her to extract as much as possible before you wise up." She wasn't wrong, but I had my own plan. "Draw up the divorce papers," I said. "Have everything ready to file, but don't file yet." "When do you want me to file?" "I'll let you know." That afternoon, I went back to work and tried to pretend everything was normal. I had a consultation with the Hendersons about updating their master bathroom. They were a young couple, maybe 5 years married, clearly still crazy about each other. "We want something that will last," Mrs. Henderson said. "Something we'll still love in 20 years. Built to last is my specialty," I said, measuring their space and taking notes. But as I worked, I couldn't stop thinking about Patricia's words. Lana was escalating. The lies were getting bolder. That night proved her right. I was installing crown molding in the Hendersons' dining room when Reese called me, crying. "Dad, you need to come home," she said. "Something's wrong with Mom." I dropped everything and raced home. I found Reese in the kitchen, holding a bottle of prescription pills. "I found her in the bathroom," Reese said. "She took a bunch of these. She's upstairs throwing up." The bottle was empty. Ambien, prescribed to Lana 6 months ago. I'd never seen her take them. I ran upstairs and found Lana on the bathroom floor, conscious but barely. She looked up at me with unfocused eyes. "Nathan," she slurred. "I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore." I called 911. While we waited for the ambulance, I held my wife's head and tried to keep her conscious. Reese stood in the doorway, terrified. "Is she going to die?" Reese asked. "No," I said. "She's going to be fine." But I wasn't sure if that was true. At the hospital, they pumped her stomach and kept her for observation. The doctor explained that she hadn't taken enough pills to be fatal, but it had been close. "Was this a suicide attempt?" he asked me privately. "I don't know," I said honestly. "She'll need to speak with a psychiatrist before we can discharge her, and she'll need ongoing therapy." I nodded and went back to sit with Reese in the waiting room. "Dad," she said quietly, "this is about the other stuff, isn't it?" "The affairs?" I looked at my daughter. Brilliant, perceptive, too young to be dealing with this. "Yes," I said, "I think it is." "Is she going to leave us?" "I don't know, sweetheart." Reese was quiet for a long time. "I found more stuff," she said finally. "What kind of stuff?" She pulled out her phone and showed me a social media post. It was from Marcus, the teacher. He was at some kind of party, arm in arm with a woman who wasn't his wife. The woman was Lana. "This was posted 3 hours ago," Reese said, while Mom was supposedly at home with a headache. I stared at the photo. Lana was wearing the black dress she'd claimed was at the dry cleaner. She looked happy, carefree, completely different from the broken woman currently unconscious down the hall. "There's more," Reese said. She scrolled through more photos from the same party. Lana with different men. Lana drinking, dancing, acting like a college student instead of a married mother. "When were these taken?" "The timestamps say last weekend, when you were in Toledo." "Last weekend, when she claimed to be sick with the flu. When I'd brought her soup and medicine and worried about leaving her alone." I handed the phone back to Reese. "I'm sorry you're seeing this," I said. "I'm 18, Dad. I'm not a little kid. And I'm not stupid. A nurse came out and told us Lana was stable and asking for me. I found her sitting up in the hospital bed, looking pale but alert. The psychiatrist was finishing his evaluation. She's experiencing what we call acute adjustment disorder, he explained to me outside her room. Essentially, she's having difficulty coping with major life changes. The suicide attempt was likely impulsive, triggered by guilt and anxiety rather than true suicidal ideation. What does that mean for treatment? Intensive therapy, possibly medication for depression and anxiety. And she'll need a strong support system at home. I went back into her room. She looked small and fragile in the hospital bed, nothing like the confident woman who'd been demanding sexual freedom just weeks before. "Nathan," she said when she saw me. "I'm so sorry." "Sorry for what?" "For everything. For the pills, for scaring Reese, for all of it." I sat down in the chair next to her bed. "Are you sorry for the affairs?" She was quiet for a long time. "I'm sorry for hurting you," she said finally. "But I'm not sorry for discovering who I am." Even after a suicide attempt, even after nearly dying, she couldn't bring herself to admit she was wrong. "The doctor says you need therapy," I said. "I know. I'll do whatever it takes. And you need to stop seeing Travis and Marcus and Bobby. All of them." She looked away. "I can't promise that. Then we're done." I stood up to leave. She grabbed my hand. "Please don't abandon me," she said. "Not now. I need you. You needed me 6 months ago. You needed me when you decided to start fucking other men. You needed me when you spent our daughter's college money on a con artist. But you chose them instead." "Nathan, I'll take care of the hospital bills," I said. "And I'll make sure Reese doesn't blame herself for this. But we're getting divorced." Her face crumpled. "What about our agreement? What about waiting until after Reese starts college?" "You broke the agreement," I said. "You've been lying to me every single day." I walked out of her room and didn't look back. The next morning, I called Patricia Hines and told her to file the divorce papers. But first, I had some other business to take care of. I started with Bobby. His construction company was barely staying afloat, according to the financial records I'd obtained. He was behind on rent, behind on child support, and desperate for work. I called him and offered him a job. "I need some renovation work done on a property I'm flipping," I told him, "but I need someone discreet, someone who doesn't ask questions." We met at a diner on the east side. Bobby was exactly what I'd expected. Rough around the edges, clearly struggling, probably not too bright. "What kind of work?" he asked. "Demolition, mostly. Tearing out old fixtures, cleaning up debris, cash job." His eyes lit up. "How much?" "2,000 for a week's work." "That's generous. Like I said, I need discretion." He agreed immediately. I gave him an address and told him to start Monday morning. The address was to a warehouse Travis rented for his Radical Unity workshops. I'd found it through his business filings. Bobby spent the next week unknowingly planting hidden cameras throughout the space. Next was Marcus. I did some digging and found out he was up for a promotion to assistant principal. The school board vote was scheduled for the following month. I made an anonymous call to the school district's HR department. "I'm calling to report inappropriate conduct by one of your teachers," I said. "Marcus Williams. He's been having an affair with a married woman and engaging in sexual activity at school-sponsored events. Do you have evidence of this?" "I have photographs." I sent them the pictures from Reese's social media discovery, along with time-stamped evidence showing Marcus had called in sick on days he was actually partying with my wife. Within a week, Marcus was suspended pending investigation. His wife filed for divorce 2 days later. But Travis was the real target. The cameras Bobby had unknowingly installed gave me a front-row seat to Travis's operation. What I saw was worse than I'd imagined. The Radical Unity workshops weren't about relationship growth. They were elaborate psychological manipulation schemes designed to break down married couples so Travis could exploit the women. I watched him work his magic on vulnerable wives, using carefully crafted language to make them feel enlightened, while actually isolating them from their support systems. He charged exorbitant fees for private sessions that were basically expensive therapy, designed to make women financially and emotionally dependent on him. But the most damning footage came from his private office. I recorded him bragging to his business partner, Mitch Abrams, about his stable of married women. "The trick is making them think it's their idea," Travis said, counting a stack of cash. "Once they believe they're sexually liberated instead of just cheating, they'll pay anything to maintain the fantasy." "How much did you pull in this month?" Mitch asked. $47,000. Not bad for telling housewives what they want to hear. They laughed about it like it was the greatest scam ever invented. I also recorded Travis discussing his plan to get Lana to leave me entirely. "She's almost ready," he told Mitch. "A few more sessions and she'll file for divorce. Then I can really cash in. Divorced women are even more desperate than married ones." I had everything I needed. I compiled all the footage, along with financial records showing how Travis had been systematically draining money from multiple families, and sent it anonymously to investigative reporters at 3 different news outlets. The story broke on a Thursday morning. By afternoon, Travis's website was down and his phone was disconnected. By evening, the police had raided his warehouse and seized his financial records. Lana called me hysterical. "Did you see the news?" she sobbed. "They're saying Travis is a criminal. They're saying he manipulated me." "I saw it. Nathan, I think I made a mistake. Just one. Please, can we talk? In person?" "I need to explain everything." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop downtown. She looked terrible, pale, thin, her hair unwashed. The confident, sexually liberated woman from a few weeks ago was gone. "I was wrong," she said as soon as I sat down. "About everything. Travis, the open marriage, all of it. I got caught up in something I didn't understand." "You understood perfectly," I said. "You just didn't care about the consequences. I care about you. I care about Reese. I want to fix this. It's too late for that." "It's not too late," she said desperately. "We can go to counseling. I'll cut off all contact with everyone." "I'll do whatever you want." I pulled out my phone and showed her a news article that had just been posted. "Travis Kearns arrested for financial fraud and sexual coercion." The article included photos from his workshops, including several of Lana. "Your face is all over the internet," I said, "associated with a sex cult leader who's been arrested for fraud. How do you think that's going to affect your career? How do you think that's going to affect Reese when she starts college?" Lana buried her face in her hands. "I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know what he really was." "Yes, you did. You just didn't care because you were getting what you wanted." "That's not true." "You spent $8,000 on relationship coaching. $8,000 of our daughter's college money. You lied to me every single day for months. You exposed me to STDs without my knowledge or consent. You humiliated our family publicly, and you tried to kill yourself rather than face the consequences of your actions." She was crying now, ugly tears that smeared her makeup. "I know I made mistakes." "Mistakes?" I leaned forward. "You didn't make mistakes, Lana. You made choices, deliberate, selfish choices that prioritized your sexual gratification over everything else." "Please," she whispered. "I'll do anything." I stood up to leave. "There's nothing you can do. The divorce papers were filed this morning." Her face went white. "What about our agreement? What about waiting until Reese starts college? You broke that agreement the day you started lying to me again?" "Nathan, please." "I hope it was worth it," I said. "I hope those 6 months of freedom were worth losing your family." I walked out of the coffee shop and never spoke to her again. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. I got primary custody of Reese, the house, and most of our assets. Lana got supervised visitation rights and a small settlement that would barely cover her legal fees. She also got something else, a diagnosis. During the mandatory psychological evaluation, doctors discovered that Lana had contracted a rare and aggressive sexually transmitted infection, something she'd picked up from one of her partners and never bothered to get tested for. The infection had been silently damaging her organs for months. By the time it was discovered, it had already caused permanent damage to her liver and kidneys. She had maybe 2 years to live. Reese took the news about as well as could be expected. "Is that why she tried to kill herself?" she asked me. "Because she knew she was sick?" "I don't think she knew," I said. "The symptoms are pretty subtle until the end stages. Do you think she got it from Travis?" I didn't answer that question. But privately, I hoped she had. I hoped Travis had given her exactly what she deserved. Reese started college that fall as planned. She chose a school 4 hours away, far enough to have her own life, but close enough to visit on weekends. She was studying business with a minor in psychology. "I want to understand how people make such destructive choices," she told me. "So maybe I can help them make better ones." She never visited her mother in the hospital. Lana spent her last 18 months in and out of various medical facilities as her condition worsened. I heard updates through mutual friends, but I never went to see her. She died on a Tuesday in February, alone except for one nurse who barely knew her name. Her funeral was sparsely attended, just a few colleagues from work and one distant cousin who flew in from Oregon. Reese and I didn't go. The day after the funeral, I got a call from Lana's lawyer. She'd left a letter for me to be delivered after her death. Nathan, I know you'll never forgive me, and I don't blame you. I destroyed our family for something that wasn't even real. Travis was using me the whole time, and I was too blind to see it. I keep thinking about that last conversation we had when you asked if it was worth it. The answer is no. Nothing was worth losing you and Reese. I know this doesn't change anything, but I need you to know that I loved you. I loved you when I married you. I loved you when I betrayed you. And I love you now as I'm dying. The problem was never that I didn't love you enough. The problem was that I didn't love myself enough to appreciate what I had. Take care of Reese. Help her understand that not all women are like me. I'm sorry for everything. Lana. I read the letter once, then burned it in my workshop fireplace. Some apologies come too late to matter. Travis Kearns was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for fraud, tax evasion, and sexual coercion. His radical unity empire collapsed completely. Most of his victims, including my wife, never recovered their money. Bobby ended up in rehab after developing his own infection from the same source. He blamed Lana publicly, posting rants on social media about how she'd ruined his life. I almost felt sorry for him. Marcus lost his job, his wife, and his teaching license. Last I heard, he was working at a hardware store in Akron and fighting for supervised visitation with his kids. Mitch Abrams, Travis's business partner, disappeared before the arrests. Rumor has it he fled to Costa Rica with whatever money he could grab. The FBI is still looking for him. 6 months after Lana's death, I sold the house and bought a smaller place closer to my workshop. Reese helped me pick it out during her spring break. It's perfect, Dad, she said, walking through the empty rooms. It feels like a fresh start. That's exactly what it was. I'm 52 now, and my life is quieter than it's been in years. I run my business, I visit Reese at college, and I spend my evenings in the workshop creating beautiful things that will outlast all of us. Sometimes people ask if I'm lonely, if I miss being married. The answer is complicated. I miss being married to the woman I thought Lana was. I miss the life I thought we were building together. But I don't miss the lies, the betrayal, or the constant uncertainty of never knowing who I was really living with. Reese graduated summa cum laude last spring. She's engaged to a good man who treats her with respect and makes her laugh. They're planning a small wedding next fall. Will you walk me down the aisle? She asked me when they got engaged. It would be my honor, I said. I wish Mom could be there, she said quietly. Part of her will be, I told her. The good parts that made you who you are. That seemed to comfort her. Last week, I finished a custom dining set for a young couple who reminded me of Reese and her fiancé. 8 chairs built to last generations. As I was applying the final coat of finish, I found myself thinking about permanence. Wood doesn't lie. It shows you exactly what it is. Grain, knots, imperfections, and all. You can work with its natural character, or you can try to force it into something it's not. But if you force it, if you try to make it bear more weight than it can handle, it will eventually split along the grain and fall apart. Marriage is like that too. You can build something beautiful if you respect the material you're working with. But if you stress it beyond its natural limits, if you try to make it support things it was never designed to carry, it will break. Lana tried to make our marriage carry the weight of her infidelity, her lies, and her selfishness. The wood split exactly where you'd expect it to, along the fault lines of trust and respect that hold everything together. I don't blame myself for her choices anymore. I did what I could with the material I was given. When it became clear that the structure was compromised beyond repair, I did what any good craftsman would do. I measured twice, cut once, and built something new.